Hey guys, it's Troy here, and today we're going to run through the most important shortcuts in online play. Every shortcut on this list has an element of risk to it, which is a main component on why the shortcuts in Mario Kart Wii are so good. This video isn't a tutorial on how to do the shortcuts. If you want tutorials, stay tuned until the very end. Alright, first off, we are heading to N64 Bowser's Castle. This is a must-do shortcut while front running, and a little risky if you're not, due to the fact that people can trap it with items easily. Landing on the rail and hopping off is the easiest way to execute it. If you're able to Spindrift, you can shave a little more time as demonstrated here, but the best way to do this cut is to land on the rail up top like the world record does. Once your trick speed is about to run out, re-hop to avoid having to chain a wheelie, and then because you're on the rail at higher elevation, you'll have plenty of time to choose to get off the rail if a trap is present. This method is not only the fastest way to do the cut, but also avoids worst case scenario, which is tricking onto the rail only for there to be a fake item box hot and ready for you. Next, we got the Rainbow Road Moon Jump. The standard hop method will save a little bit of time. However, the best method is wheeling off the vertical drop because you'll land on top the zipper. If you fail it, you're still getting a mushroom boost on a straightaway, which isn't the end of the world. And the only time I wouldn't go for the wheelie method is when you want to get the item at the bottom of the hill if you're in a lower position. Another underrated element of this cut is how you're able to skip common item traps on the slope. There's also this cut before the cannon that saves a little bit of time if you're comfortable going for it, but it's a little on the risky side for how little time it saves. Let's head to Toad's Factory for the box clip glitch. I'm just kidding. Okay, the Shroomless Cut. Once you've gotten comfortable with the regular shroom cut, it's important to learn this strategy because it's something you can do every lap since there's no item requirement. If you're in first place, it'll help you with breakaways, and I recommend always going for this if you have a little space between you and the racers in front of you. If you're having trouble with this shortcut, hold left as you drift trick off the bump. You'll get way more height. And besides that, it's important to memorize the tractor patterns so you don't bonk into one upon landing. Next track, DK Summit. Everyone already does the single cut, but for the double, it's another Shroomless Cut that saves a decent chunk of time. If you have space between you and the racer behind you, doing a slower approach is not a bad idea, and I'll be honest, this is usually how I attempt the shortcut. However, the best way to do this cut online is with a little bit of speed. And if you hop off the ledge before the first chasm, you'll maintain more speed and have less chance of getting bumped off. To add to that, since it's a Shroomless Cut, you can trap it after taking it and people won't know you trapped it until it's too late. Another reason to learn the hop method is when you fail the cut, you're more likely to fall off on the second part and respawn at the end as opposed to the first chasm and respawn in the middle, which is a huge time loss and very difficult to make up. Everyone still playing does this shortcut at the end of DK Mountain, so this is more about approaching it correctly. This cut is free from Lock Bike, but for Flame Runner, if you don't do the turn leading up to it the right way, you'll leave yourself with very few options, especially if it's trapped. From here, you can completely stop and charge a standstill me turbo, or do the 2008 method by going up the slope. Both lose time over this approach, showing right now. By drifting left into this steep slope, you'll launch yourself even further to the left, setting yourself up real nice for the gap cut. If done correctly, you'll be able to hop off the gap, your back wheel clipping the edge, and maintaining most of your speed for the following turn. Lastly, this method allows you to easily snag every single item box, so if you're in first place, the person in second very likely won't get an item at all. This maneuver doesn't work with the 2008 strat just because of the angle. You can't hit all the boxes. Alright, Mushroom Gorge Gap Jump, one of the best designed shortcuts in Mario Kart Wii, in my opinion. There's like a million different ways to do this one. It doesn't look like it, but you can actually pull this one off with any vehicle in the game, which is something that I've always loved. You can cut a couple seconds by going over the grass, but this shortcut is more important because it is at the very end of the level and saves an additional 2 seconds over the grass cut.
Oh my god! Oh, that bullet bill
Yes,
is so
second!
close.
Yes! So yeah, the most common way to fail it is just by not jumping in time. If timing the jump on the very edge isn't working for you, I recommend throwing in a Spindrift to give yourself a little more air. If you aren't comfortable Spindrifting, your best bet is to do the shortcut completely hopless. By drifting left and holding all the way right before going airborne, you can clear the gap without a hop. Sometimes you'll have some really close calls while attempting this one, You can cut a significant margin of the gap by starting wide and drifting tight. I personally don't use this one very much, but some people feel more comfortable with it as opposed to hopping. The thing I've always loved about this shortcut is you can't take half measures. You have to go for it or really go for it. Trying to cut a small portion of the gap will end in your demise, but due to its placement on the track, it leads to exciting finishes and memorable races. Okay, for Dry Ruins, there's a lot to cover. The sand top is a nice time saver, but not necessary to learn. However, I love going for it in first place to extend my lead. The 3 shroom shortcut is difficult and easiest with a golden mushroom or a star. If you attempt it with 3 shrooms, it's just important to remember to use your last mushroom right after the mini air pocket you'll get at the end of the second mushroom. When learning it, I recommend doing the safe strategy and aiming for the wider exit. It saves less time, but it's also much less risky. Now, the most important shortcut to learn on this track is by far the wall glitch. It's another shroomless shortcut and saves loads every lap. When I play online, I always delay my trick in midair for a safe approach, aim for this part on the zipper before takeoff, but recently I've been practicing the wheelie method, which saves even more time. For this method, wheelie into the small dip and drift right, beginning a slip drift. Wheelie before tricking and aim for lower air, and remember to cancel your wheelie before you land. If you don't, you'll shoot off to the right. This track is riddled with shortcuts. There's even a few more, like skipping the last turn shroomless, or the lake cut at the beginning of the lap. But those ones don't see too much use online for numerous reasons. On Delfino Square, we're going to cover 2 shortcuts, starting with the shroomless dock. Always go for this one if you're in first. You can't pull a mushroom for the mud cut, so it's a no-brainer, and you can trap the cut and immediately replace your item with the item box on the dock. Now, if you're in second or third, your chances of getting a mushroom aren't very high, so it's not a bad idea to go for it. Although, if the player in first lays a trap on the ramp, you need to improvise. Spindrifting to land on the far tip of the dock is a great way to avoid traps. Also, on lap 3, if a shock hasn't been used in a while, it's a risky play and I recommend avoiding the dock entirely. Now, the double cut is easiest to learn by going between the trees and executing a trick. You'll get really nice alignment for the mud cut, and once you've mastered that, the method to learn next is to stay to the right of the trees and just wheelie. You'll get way less air, and in this game you always want to get less air. Also, if you ever get a star, chain it at the boxes and it's the most broken shortcut ever and you'll win tons of races. I love pulling stars on Delfino. It's a free win sometimes when you dodge the shock mid-shortcut. Bowser's Castle glitch up next as we head to our third to last track on the list. This shortcut is more important to know while on Mach Bike as opposed to Flame Runner. When you're able to approach from the far left with the Flame Runner when the fire wheel isn't in your way, I like to head up the slope and slow down, aim for the 2 bolts, and tilt back, use the mushroom right before passing through the invisible wall, and bam. It's actually fairly consistent this way, but the slower you go, the bigger chance of another racer bumping into you right before you take off, screwing up your alignment. That's why the shortcut is so important with the Mach Bike. There's a consistent method to doing it no stop without a mushroom. You just gotta jump as soon as you hit the zipper with the right angle and tilt back in the air. This track has no shortcuts otherwise, so if you're a Mach Bike player, it's an absolute must learn because you'll get many free victories. Since it's shroomless, you can hold a power item, do the cut, and then all of a sudden be holding it in first place. Just don't use the bullet right when you land or it won't know where to go. Second to last, we have the Bowser Castle 3 glitches. You're cutting off 2 straightaways and 2 turns, which is absolutely nuts. You gotta learn to do this one fast with the mushroom in the middle of the pack because everyone will try to bump you off since you're literally a sitting duck while going for it. If it's not blocked and you have a mushroom, I'd say it's always worth the risk though. The shroomless variant is very niche. Because you have to charge a standstill main turbo, you're in harm's way for a while. If you're in first place, you're better off just blocking the cut with a trap, and in the other positions, doing the Ultra variant of the shortcut has a lot more upside. So for the Shroomless Ultra, this is very easy to do with the Mach Bike. Align right here, charge a standstill main turbo, release, and done. Almost no one ever blocks this shortcut because of its awkward placement. The only downside with it for this vehicle is sometimes a lot of people go for it in a race and everyone bumps each other. For the Flame Runner, the positioning is a little more specific. I always tilt right a bit before liftoff, but yeah, I never feel too comfortable with it on this vehicle, so I prefer to grab a bullet bill, so in case I fail, the bullet bill will lead me straight back to safety. And the last track. Let's take a look at Grumble Volcano for the lava respawn and the rock hop shortcuts. The lava respawn is straight up busted and probably the most important shortcut on this list along with the DK Mountain one. By using a mushroom and hitting the wall, you can skip a ridiculous portion of the track respawning on the other side. It gives you a chance to dodge the shock as well, and it's very simple in execution. I like to wheelie off the edge, and this works like 98% of the time. But if people are next to you doing the cut as well, you can get wheelie bumped in midair, lose all your speed, and plunge straight into the lava. So the best method is to drift into it and then hold left, just like on Toad's Factory, and you'll get much more height. It's the safest method for the cut. So finally, the rock hop. This is the strat when you have multiple mushrooms, because you can keep them after the shortcut as opposed to the lava cut. I often drift into it, break, aim for this diamond, mushroom, and tilt left as I hit the rock. This way gives me a super high success rate. I also like to spindrift on this portion right here before going into it, and this also aligns me for the diamond that I go for when I slow down for the shortcut. If you want to get crazy, you can go for the wheelie spindrift method, which saves even more time. It's actually not as risky as it looks because there are so many recovery strategies. Even if you fail the rock hop in general, you'll still get the lava respawn the majority of the time, and if you hit the rock, use a second mushroom to guarantee your survival. Alright guys, I hope you learned something while watching this video, and I have a link on how to play online in the description below. Also, if you are looking for tutorials, I recommend checking out Arc Intel's channel. He has shortcut tutorials on a lot of the strategies we went over in this video and plenty of well-made Mario Kart Wii guides. So go subscribe to him because he's doing an awesome job with his videos. And last, leave a like if you'd like to see more scripted Mario Kart Wii videos from me. That's it for now. Thank you for watching. As always, enjoy Funky Kong dancing, and peace.